Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight in golf at the college level. My guest today is Jason Berry. He's the head men's golf coach at Rider University, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
No problem. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to Rider. I was teaching golf in the area and studied at Rider. Got a degree in psychology and just kind of have been in the golf world ever since.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah. So let's go back into high school. When did you get started into thinking about college? Was it freshman year, senior year? When did it all start for you?
I really started seriously sophomore year. Just was going through the college process and playing a lot of golf tournaments and kind of figuring out where I wanted to go to school and if I wanted to play and at what level I could play, and was kind of trying to get better and trying just to improve my game to see where I could play.
Now, did you get recruited at the high school level?
I didn't. I wasn't that good. I was a good junior player, but I wasn't heavily recruited. I probably could have played college golf at a D2 or a D3 level, or maybe a smaller Division I school. Mm-hmm. But when the time came to choose, I really had kind of lost interest in playing tournament golf and was more interested in coaching and teaching.
Really?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you ended up going to Rider University. What was some of the activities you did at Rider University? Did you play golf?
I didn't play golf. I was actually teaching when I was in school, and when you teach, you can't play. Like I said, my interest had become more about teaching and coaching. So I was working for the Mercer County Golf Academy at the time, and I was doing a lot of stuff with juniors, and I was just studying at Rider to get a degree. But most of the stuff I was doing was geared towards making me a better coach and a better teacher, and I was doing basically everything I could at the time every day just to get better.
Fantastic. So now you graduate from Rider University. How does one go from there to becoming the head men's golf coach at Rider University?
That's kind of been around the area a lot, so to speak. And after I graduated, like I said, I was teaching a lot of juniors and was starting to teach more in the area. And I was studying from a lot of really good teachers that sort of mentored me and helped get me better. And I was doing a lot of studying. I moved to Florida for a little bit, and I worked at Academy down there for a little. And then I moved back up here, and I actually got a job coaching at West Windsor North High School. So I coached at the high school level for one season, and then the job opened up at Rider. And I was actually coaching a player at Rider at the time who had kind of let me know that the coach was thinking about stepping down. So when it opened up, I was ready, and I went and applied, and I was lucky enough to get the job.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So now how long have you been at Rider University?
Going into my 5th season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great job.
It's gone pretty quick, that's for sure. Feels like just yesterday I started.
Yeah. So let's go into recruiting. How does golf recruit at the high school level? Do they recruit at the high school level, or is it just tournaments outside the high school level?
As a coach, I'm looking at scores from all over the place. Higher level programs are probably looking more at a national level, AJGA tournaments, U.S. Junior Amateurs, bigger kind of events. But I'm looking at scores from every tournament. And just to see how a player's progressing and what kind of scores they're shooting in tournaments. I always know that when they're playing at a high school level, college level is much harder. The weather's harder, the golf courses are longer. They're having to adapt to college life. And I'm just tracking their scores and to kind of see how they're progressing.
Mm-hmm. So now, when do you start recruiting these kids? Is it sophomore year, junior year, senior year?
I keep my eye on them throughout high school, but I don't start talking to them until their junior year. And I get a lot of emails and people reaching out and calling who are interested in coming. And I'm always tracking where they're at and then again seeing where they kind of progress to and if they're getting better and how the scores are trending and stuff like that. I'll also look at swing videos if they send them to me, or TrackMan launch monitor data numbers, which is becoming a big piece of teaching these days as it gets more technologically advanced. So I'm kind of checking everything out, and for me, I'm looking more at a local level in the tri-state area. I actually had a transfer student come over from Spain, so it's not just local, but I track a lot of what's going on in New Jersey and Connecticut, New York, and Pennsylvania.
Is that pretty much your recruiting base? Is the tri-state area type?
It's not just to that, but a lot of the players that I have on my team come from
that area.
Yeah, they do. Again, I had a transfer student come from Spain, so no, not everybody comes from that area, and I'll take a player who's good from any area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm usually looking more in the local area.
Now, how does it all work? Do you go personally, have to drive and see these kids, or is it just the videos that they're sending to you?
A lot of it's the videos that they send me. They'll send me an email, and hopefully when they send me an email, they send me a tournament resume with scores, their grades, and 2 swing videos with good camera angles. One's from down the line where I can see the club going back, and one's from the face-on motion where I'm looking at their chest and seeing how their body's moving. And if they have launch monitor numbers that tell me what the club's doing through impact, that's also really good. So some of it's that, and then I also go to some tournaments in the summer, and I like to watch how they conduct themselves on the golf course. If I go and watch a tournament and I see a player throw a club or start cursing or handle himself like that, even if he's really good, I'm immediately not interested. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything. And then I get them on campus and I talk to them, see how they conduct themselves, how they associate with their parents, just to see if they're going to be a good fit for my program.
Now, how about academically? What type of kids do you look for academically? They have to be A students, or?
They don't have to be A students, but I would say to strive to be an A student. But no, a good student, B and up, and good SAT scores. And again, when I meet with them, I can really gauge to see if I think they're a good person, if they're going to be honest with me, if they're going to give me everything they have every time they step out on the course. A lot of that stuff goes into me kind of deciding if I want them to be part of the program or not.
Yeah. So now you how many kids do you recruit to get a certain amount at the college level?
I'm always looking at a bunch of kids, but it depends on the year. I just had a bunch of seniors graduate, so I'm bringing in 4 new freshmen this year, and that's a lot. But I usually carry between 7 and 9 on the team, so it just depends on who's going out and who's coming in. But I'm always keeping my eye on what's going on to try to get more talent in.
Wow, fantastic. Now, how about monies at the college level for golf? Is there money at the college level for golf?
There is. It depends on the program. Some programs have more money. There's also academic aid that you have to weigh into that too. So if a prospective student athlete comes in and they have good SAT scores and their GPA is really good, you can get them money for that, and then you can give some money for golf too. Now again, some programs have a lot of money, some don't have quite as much. It just depends on that program's budget, but there is money there for sure.
Great. Now, so someone comes to Rider University. What's the expectation of the whole year? When does a person come to the school? Is it August? Is it September? And what happens throughout the whole year, the 12 months with that person?
So for us, it's a little later. We start early in September. I think the start date maybe is the 5th or the 6th this year. And actually with us, it's like we kind of get right into it because we're competing. So I have qualifying to see who's going to be playing in the first tournament. The low scores for me always get in. And also they're starting class right away too. So they have to juggle a lot of work. They're also, for freshmen, getting adjusted to being at college, which can be an adjustment, as we know. So they're adjusting to that, and they're trying to keep their game in shape or get better. And they're having to deal with golf courses, again, that are a little bit more difficult. And we play in the Northeast in some nasty weather too. So a lot of rain and wind, and they can be long days. And a lot of the times they have to fight out there. So it's a lot of different stuff initially, them just getting used to being there and playing at that level. So that's pretty much, when they come in, our season basically goes from September 10th or so to October 16th. Okay. That's usually our fall season, and we play 5 tournaments in that time, so it's a lot in a little amount of time. And again, they're juggling work and the social aspect of it too, so it's a lot for one to handle coming in. So I'm always trying to support them in every way possible to make the transition easier.
Yeah. So now, after October, what happens from October until the spring?
So I typically give the guys 2 weeks off right after season ends, just to get caught up on schoolwork and just to try to get everything back to neutral because it's a lot going on. And then what we do is I usually meet with each player and just talk about what happened in the season, what we did well, what we need to do well. How are we going to get better and play better in the spring? And then I'll put them on a physical fitness program. So we meet with a TPI certified coach who is basically an expert in golf fitness. So we'll get each player tested to see where they're limited and what's hurting their golf swing and what we can do to get better. And then we meet with our trainer at Rider, Jerry Green, who's a great trainer, and we all kind of come up with a plan to get each individual better. And then we start team workouts where we're working on getting our body stronger and really building towards making a better golf body. And then from there, we're also in the golf room, and we have video in there, and we're trying to make changes towards getting the technique better so that they can perform well in the spring. So we do that up until, I think, December 15th or so. They go to winter break, and our break's pretty long. So hopefully, guys, during that time, some will go play in a couple tournaments. One of the freshmen went and played in the Dixie Amateur in Florida, so they're going and testing their game against better players. And yeah, if they can go to Florida and get away for a week and just try to play some golf to keep a club in their hands when there's snow on the ground out here is great.
Uh-huh.
They'll come back like later January. We'll usually have a team meeting, talk about goals for the spring, and then basically from February to mid-March, we're really working on the technique part of it inside and just trying to get that as good as it can be, because when they get outside into late March and early April, it's like they have to go and play for a score. So if they're still working on technique and getting the swing better, it's better to have that stuff as solid as possible at that time, because once you get out there, you really need to be focused on what you need to do to get the ball in the hole. The course management stuff, different lies, different shots that maybe we haven't been hitting a lot because the weather's bad. So I like it once we actually can get on the golf course, just to be worrying about score and how we're going to get the ball in the hole, because that's what they need to do when they go compete. So February and first part of March is like technical stuff, and then we try to get outside and get playing as soon as possible. And we actually went to Florida to play in a tournament early March during spring break last year, which was also good. It was just good to get on Florida grass because we play our conference championship there at the end of April, but just also to get outside before our season started.
And so the season goes until the end of April?
Yeah, so I think our first tournament was like the 28th of March, and our conference championship I think ended the 26th of April. So I think we played 6 tournaments in 3.5, 4 weeks. Wow. So again, once you get out there, it's like we really need to be playing for a score then, because there's not a lot of time in between tournaments. We're also doing qualifying. It's a lot in a little amount of time. And again, with that, they're also balancing school, and they have to keep their grades in good shape, and it's a balance between trying to manage everything. So our season, it's a short season in the spring. We're doing everything before that to get ready, but it's a lot in a little amount of time.
So what happens from May until September? What are they doing? Are they playing in a whole bunch of tournaments?
Yeah, I always like my guys to compete a lot in the summer. There's a bunch of tournaments, depending on where they live. But I typically sit down with my players in April and just talk about a tournament schedule they're going to play. I like them to play in U.S. Open locals. It's very hard, as you know, if you want to go to the U.S. Open, but you can really challenge yourself and see where your game is. And then there's state amateurs and state opens and other amateur tournaments they can play in. If they're in this area, it's great for that because we have the NJSGA, which they do a really good job of running tournaments. The MGA, which is the Metropolitan Golf Association, they run an excellent tournament. The fields are great. You have the Pennsylvania Golf Association, the Gap Golf, which is Philadelphia. So there's a lot of things that they can play in, and you have to qualify for those events, and then usually they're 3 or 4 day tournaments. So you can keep your game competitively sharp over the summer. For me, it's always about getting a little bit better every day, trying to do whatever you have to do to make yourself better so that when you come back in September, we're ready to go. Now,
what's a typical score from a high school kid to compare to a typical score as a college kid?
It depends on the level. Some high school kids are shooting 66 and 67 and are really, really good, really young. I think Spieth was, when he was 16, he was obviously shooting those scores and winning junior amateurs, and he probably was shooting those scores even before then. And some kids are shooting 75 and 80 and 82 and 83. So it really depends on the level of player. I'd say there's there's a wide range. You can't really say what one person's.
And how about at the college level? What's the typical score that you're seeing at the college level?
It depends on the level again. If it's a D2 or a D3 program, they may be shooting mid to higher 70s to 80s. Or better D2 or D3 schools can be shooting lower than that. There's some really good Division II programs down south as well. So again, it depends on the level. And in our conference, we're seeing scores anywhere from 68 or so to 82 or 3 on a bad day. So it really just depends. In Northeast golf, usually if you can shoot scores as a team, under 295, you're sort of in the ball game because you never know what's going to happen with weather and stuff. Now, if you go down south with bigger schools, those guys can be shooting 63 and 64, and they might be throwing out 73 or 4. So it really depends on the level.
And what's the practice like at the college level? Is it every single day for 7 days? Or?
I have practice Monday through Friday every day in the afternoon. My players go to class in the morning, and then we practice every day in the afternoon.
And how many hours is that usually?
Typically 3 hours or so. Some will stay for a shorter time on some days. Some will stay for a little bit longer. And I sort of individualize practice. I don't have all of my guys on the putting green hitting 3-footers, because player A may need to be working on his driver or irons that were giving him problem at tournaments where another guy might have struggled out of the bunker. So with golf, it's really like, what does that individual need to do to get better to perform?
Yeah.
So I kind of have some freedom in my system where we can just try to work on the individual to get them better.
And you can work on every single part of the game, from the short game to the long game, drivers, sand traps, all of that.
Yeah, that's the thing with golf, right? You need all those pieces to come together, right? You need a tee shot in the fairway and the next shot on the green, and then hopefully you make the putt. But some days we might not be hitting greens, or we're always going to miss some greens and need to get up and down, chip it next to the hole and hopefully make the putt. And again, in the Northeast, especially in the spring, we play in really bad weather. It's rainy, it's really windy. So sometimes 75 is an excellent score up here. Now they might need to work on shots where they're going to be hitting the ball lower into wind and taking more club so they can flight it down. So it's really about preparing and getting as sharp as we can for the elements that we play in, which for these guys up here is very challenging in the spring.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So now at the college level, grades mean a lot because then they can't play, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So what are typical things that these players are doing for schooling? Do you see certain majors with these kids, or is it that there's a wide variety from doctors and lawyers to whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I've had luckily enough, I've had all my players graduate, at least that I've coached, and they've all almost gotten a job right away. And some of that's been with accounting, some of that's been with marketing stuff, some of that's been with business. I had a player just graduate, he's going into financial advising. I have another player who graduated, he's been with Coca-Cola for 1.5 years. He's a manager of warehouses now. So Ryder is really good with developing students because they have smaller classrooms, there's more attention there, and they're really good with job placement. When you come out of Ryder, you typically find your way into a job. And it's with my players, it's a wide range of what they do.
And now, do you find, being there, that you've been there for 5 years, golf is something that you can play into your 70s and 80s?
Sure, absolutely.
Do you see these guys coming back to you and talking to you?
I have a good relationship with just about all my players. I keep in touch with all of them. I'll still play golf with some of them. Some of them will still send me swing videos, and I take pride in really building friendships and great relationship with the guys that have come through my program. I try to do everything I can to support them. I know how hard it is when they're playing. I never get mad at any of my guys for playing a bad round. I'll get mad at them for either quitting on a round, which none of them do, but that would be something that would make me really mad, or hitting like a stupid shot that puts a team score in jeopardy, where maybe you'd roll the dice in an individual event, but when you're having a card to score for the team, you really need to be smarter than that sometimes and take your medicine. But as long as they give me everything they got when they're out there, I never get mad at them, even if it's disappointing if we don't play well. But I try to keep a good relationship with them. I'm still in touch with just about all of them.
Do they create a networking type of thing? Because business is all about playing golf sometimes.
Right.
Do you see that a lot of these students of yours end up doing a lot of networking on the golf course and things of that sort? Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing about golf, right? It'll take you to places and you'll meet people where if you didn't play or weren't around the game, then you probably wouldn't have done that. So when they're out there, they know they're representing themselves every time they're out there. They're always meeting people, and I think everybody can take a page from Arnold Palmer. He was so great to everybody he met. Whether the camera was there or whatever circumstance it was, he treated everybody great. And I try to do the same, and I want all my players to do the same as well. And in conducting yourself like that, you meet people and you build relationships, and you're out there for 4.5 hours playing. You're talking about all different kinds of things, and you can really form relationships that, again, maybe you wouldn't have had an opportunity to do if you weren't playing.
So how big is high school golf compared to tournament golf that's out there?
Are you talking like tournament golf in the summer for those guys when they're playing?
Yeah.
again, for me, it's big because I'm just looking at the scores they're shooting. You know, the Texas coach might be just looking at national tournaments and bigger summer tournaments and stuff like that. So I think it really depends on the program. Anything with a score for me is important. I'm also taking into account, you know, what distance was the course they played. It's a really short course or an easier tournament. I'm weighing that in versus ones that may be harder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anywhere where they're stepping out there and playing for a score, I'm looking at.
Now, do you find conferences or bigger tournaments that you have to go to see a more wide variety of kids?
I'll go to the bigger tournaments around here. The U.S. Junior Amateur Qualifier is a big one. AJGA events. Those are more national tournaments. They're bigger ones. But I'll go out to a state sectional tournament and I'll watch that too. So it really depends, again, on the program.
Yeah.
But
now,
yeah.
Do they have to be nationally ranked to get into a college?
No. They just have to really be given an opportunity by a coach. So if I look at a resume and I see a swing video with potential and maybe the scores weren't great, but they're getting better, and I meet with the player and they seem to be a really good kid, and I feel like, man, I could really get this guy better. He's really going to work his butt off to get as good as he can. I might give a guy an opportunity who hasn't performed great before, knowing that he could come in and he's going to work hard to get better. So for me, no, they don't have to be nationally ranked at all.
They don't.
No.
And how about high schools? Are there certain high schools that generate better golfers than other high schools, or is it pretty much you can go anywhere in the country to go find somebody?
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I'm sure high schools in Florida and where the weather's warmer, the players are going to be better. They're playing all year round and stuff like that. I don't know about one high school developing players better, so to speak. But at the junior level, it's really about what the players doing to get themselves better. Are they working with a swing coach? Are they working on the right things? Are they getting their bodies in shape to play? What kind of preparation are they doing in the summer and outside of school golf to really get their games in shape?
And do you find a lot of students finding private coaches to work with them, or you?
At the high school level, yeah, because most high school golf coaches are, you know, they're teachers at the school. They're not necessarily swing mechanic experts. There may be a few out there. But yeah, definitely, I think most of the players, especially the serious ones, are getting swing coaches, and hopefully they're staying with the swing coach for a bunch of years and developing a relationship and making progress on what they're doing.
Now, do you do any type of camps in the summertime or anything like that?
I don't. At one point, that'd be something I'd like to do. I don't right now. I privately teach over at Mercer Oaks, which is as local as you know. But no, personally, I don't do camps right now. Some schools do camps, but I haven't got them started. I'd like to at one point, though.
Is that something that students should get into if they want to do something like that?
I think it depends on the camp. Some of them, some camps are really good. I went to when I was a sophomore in high school. I went to a camp in Florida, Gator Golf Camp, and I met a couple really cool players and learned a couple things that were great. I think more important than camps is for a player to be working with a coach and to be working on the right stuff and competing a lot. Mm-hmm. Although camps can be helpful, though. It depends on the camp and the player. But really, it's important to always have a direction of what you're doing with your game and doing with your swing and technique and course management and how are you getting better to play at the next level. Because, again, when you get there, it's harder.
Now, how about size of a kid? Does it matter if you're 6'5" or 5'5"?
I think what we see these days is it really doesn't. Players like Justin Thomas, I think he's 5'7" and carries the ball 310. So, with technology these days and what we've learned sort of from force plates, which goes under your feet and tells you how your pressure sort of move, and KVS, which tells you how your pivot's working and stuff like that. These players these days, they hit the ball so far with the equipment and they generate so much speed, even for little guys like Justin Thomas, where you can see him on the street and he may not look like a guy who hits it really far, but he totally blasts the golf ball. So no, size means nothing to me. Now, it's better to be in shape and flexible and strong, but no, I mean, you see guys, again, like Justin Thomas, who can compete with Dustin Johnson, who's a mega athlete, right? He's probably 6'4", 6'3", and he's huge, and he's just like he can dunk a basketball and stuff like that. So obviously, the more athletic you are and the more in shape you are, the better. But the size of a player these days, it really doesn't matter at all.
Great. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents out there that their sons even if their daughters want to go to college to play golf, what advice do you want to give them?
I think a couple things. Parents are super important. And to first understand that golf is hard and there's going to be ups and downs with it. And as most players would know, maybe except for Tiger when he was great, really good, that there's usually more downs than ups. So the first thing is that their children need to have fun playing golf, and that needs to be the first thing. And the second thing is that they need to be supportive of what's going on. If a child has pressure from a parent because he's afraid that the parent's going to get mad, or if she's afraid her parents are going to get mad if they don't play well, you're not helping. And also, to be a parent and not a coach, if you're not an expert, get an expert to help your child out. Don't try to hop in there and help with technique when you really don't necessarily know what you're doing. So I think those are a couple things. To be really supportive, make sure it's fun, help their child get a coach, and to just help and be along for the ride. And then also, I think another thing that parents really can help their children do is make them accountable for their behavior. If you see them throwing clubs out there or cursing or doing stuff that's going to make them look bad, you should step in and say something, obviously, as a parent would know. Again, if I see a kid throwing a club or he's cursing and not conducting himself in a way that he should be, I'm immediately not interested in them. So for them to, obviously be parenting their kid as they should, and just to be supportive over it and understand how hard the game is. If you haven't played competitively, it's really tough to know, but it's really hard. So when they're not playing well, to support them, and when they do play well, to support them.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.